thank you all so much for being here, those of you that are here already. My name is Haisa Hayes. I'm the manager of emerging careers from Women in Film. I have my colleague Andrea Wilson Mirza from ReFrame here to introduce our amazing panelist and moderator. But thank you all so much for being here, and we're really excited to share this exclusive, intimate conversation with you all. So Andrea, if you want to hop on and handle intros.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Wilson Mirza. I'm the director of ReFrame, which is a collaborative program between WIF and the Sundance Institute, committed to advancing gender equity across the screen industries. And in particular, at this time of year, we are advocating for a gender balanced ballot, more women, more non-binary and trans people represented on awards ballots this season. So I'm so thrilled to be here today to kick off a beautiful conversation between two incredible creatives. One is our moderator today, the wonderful writer and director, Ally Pankiw, who also happens to be a directing fellow in our ReFrame Rise program. And she is going to be interviewing the incredible Trace Lysette, Independent Spirit Award nominated actress for the film Monica this award season. We would love to see her across many ballots. So I'm so thrilled to be bringing them both together. I will welcome you to the virtual stage. Ally and Trace, if you want to flip those cameras on and join us, let's kick off the convo.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
I'm excited that this was described as intimate and exclusive. So
that was my first time being introduced as an Indie Spirit nominee, so that was pretty special. Thank you.
congratulations. I was clapping with my mic and my camera off, but I was doing it. I'm so thrilled to be talking to you today. I've been a fan for a while and just recently watched Monica, and I mean, that's, what we're going to focus on today. And I think it's so wonderful that you've been nominated. It's such a special film and it's so beautiful. And I'm sure there's many reasons you were drawn to doing it, but I think if there's like, a main one that you keep going back to, or if you can distill down the reason why it was so special to you, I'd love to start there and then take things from there.
For sure. Sorry about my voice. I'm doing my best today. I think, if I had to pick one reason, well, it was just such a rare shot for me as a working actor who's bounced around from show to show for over a decade now. I kind of I rediscovered acting like in my mid-20s. I was a child in Dayton, Ohio, and I was cast as the lead in my elementary school play when I was like 5 years old, called Melvin the Magnificent, and I played Melvin. So clearly the music teacher back then in the 80s saw something, there was something there. And then that got lost through adolescence and bullying and life. And then I found it again in different ways through the form of like being a teenage drag queen, working in the clubs in Dayton and Columbus, and then eventually invested in myself in my mid-20s to get proper actor training, and then, like I said, bounced around from show to show as a guest star. And so getting the shot at a leading role finally at the age of, how old was I when I got that script? 30 something, late 30s. It was rare. And I was like, oh my God, I have to fight for this. And the script was good. I saw a lot of scripts over the years, not a lot, a few scripts over the years where trans people were not an afterthought, and sometimes they weren't always good scripts, and this one was actually good. So I was like, all right, this is worth fighting for. And I started the audition process I got the script in 2016, started the audition process in 2017, and it was a very long process. But that's the thing I kept coming back to was, this is what you've prepared for, this is what you have waited for as a shot like this. I hope it doesn't sound cocky to say I was beyond ready, And so that was the thing for me. It was like, all right.
I don't think it's cocky. Yeah, no, I think I was just gonna say, I was surprised even to hear the word audition, because I'm like, I feel like it was like your role. Like it feels so like written for you. I was under the impression that it could have been, but
It wasn't, yeah.
You're
It
like,
was
no,
actually written, no, it was
I
written
fought
like,
really hard.
yeah, I auditioned for like over a year, and the role was actually written for a 50-year-old, like older trans woman, about 10 years older. Like I said, I was in my late 30s when I got that audition. I'm 42 now, so yeah, it's been a long haul.
Yeah, I also think, I've worked in both TV. I've worked predominantly in TV, and then recently did my first feature, and there's differences. And I wonder for you as an actress, like what was the main difference between the work that you had been doing historically in TV, in the TV space, and then throwing yourself into something like this?
Yeah, well, I think the main difference is the pacing. You have more room to let the work breathe in film. And we actually shot on film, which was really cool. It just was a throwback to the analog world, which I enjoyed very much. I mean, it was expensive as shit, but it was beautiful in that you get that extra time to slow down, and you remember, at least I remember, the pace of life was different in the 80s and 90s, and it was nice to have a little bit of that back into the art. I started my career just auditioning for roles that weren't even trans, and my first Law and Order was not a trans specific role, and so I guess making that break, and I got Transparent, which was a TV show on Amazon. That was groundbreaking in the trans space, but I think, even though that was kind of not your traditional television, I still saw differences from that even, and then like real, traditional filmmaking with film in a feature. So I would say the pace and just the framing obviously was, I mean, Andrea's an auteur, and he, and Kate Arismendi, our cinematographer, she's amazing. I won't say it wasn't challenging. It was, like as an actor, you're just like, just give me the monologue right in, like front and center, like let me do my thing. But sometimes the artsy fartsiness of it all wins out, and that's fine. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot, and but it was a challenge to sometimes reach the audience when you don't even have your whole head in the frame. And I think Monica taught me a lot of things about subtlety and silence, and there was no room to phone anything in because the dialogue just wasn't there, and the framing wasn't there, so I had to be connected at all times. There was zero
Yeah,
room
you
for
were
anything false. Yeah.
very present. And that's something that I noticed was like, especially early on in the narrative, Monica's not really approached head on. It's always sort of like up here, like devil on the shoulder sort of framing, and like from behind and in profile. And it is beautiful. And I wonder did you have conversations with the other creatives on the team about like, why was it motivated that way? And like, where was that coming from in terms of like a story perspective?
We did. I wish I'd had more. Sometimes we just try to stay in our lane as an actor. But I did learn that sometimes you do have to defend the performance a little bit. And that came up in some of the intimacy scenes where I was naked, actually. But and what I was comfortable with and what I wasn't comfortable with. How close was the camera and all of that. I was like, oh, very jarring sometimes. But I do think, they were collaborative, and a good director will learn how to be collaborative with the actor. you know, admittedly there were certain things that just didn't make it into the final cut that I still mourn, you know, I still mourn certain things. There was a monologue into the mirror. Oh God, it was so beautiful. And I was so proud of myself. And I see everyone talking about Natalie's monologue in May, December. And I'm like, I'm like,
You're like,
it was so similar. And, you know, it didn't make it. It didn't make it into the final cut. So, you know, I don't know where I land with that. I think as my career progresses, maybe I'll keep trying to fight for a little more say so.
Yeah.
In addition to being just, you know, the actor. I was an EP on this, but in film, I think, you know, producers have seniority over EPs, and so it is what it is. It was a learning experience.
I
You
do
know?
want to pay the compliment though that like you are still so present and connected to the audience. Like that's what I found quite beautiful was like, well, there she is still, you know, even though we are looking at
Thank
you in
you.
profile, like there's a real presence to you that I think has been there all along, but it's like very much on display in this film. I also think that like, yeah, the way it was paced in the edit too, like not just like how you guys shot it, was really lovely and rare. Things are so sort of like cutty and fast, you know, and you're not really like sitting in things very long in today's day and age. And I really like when I can sort of like relax into the world and the environment of the scenes. And so I thought the actual pacing of the edit itself too was very beautiful and refreshing. And yeah, like what other things did you either mourn or celebrate when you saw the actual because it's so different. Like obviously everything is everything on set, and then the actual film that is birthed and exists in the final edit is so different than what was shot. And were there any other little like things that you were either excited by or like, oh God, I wish that it had been in?
Yeah, I was let me think of something good. Well, I liked how the driving scene turned out. It was like a one shot where I had to drive and then pull a U-turn, and you know, she's going back to the family, and it was a tough shot to do. You know, to emote and drive and like not hit the orange cones and then turn onto a free road where there's like
Stunt
oncoming
driver.
traffic. Yeah, like there's like oncoming traffic because we didn't have money to block off every road. So I'm like, oh, I'm trying to cry here. Um, and you know, we got it in the first take, and that's what they used. And I was really pleased at how it looked in the final edit. The lighting, and I mean, Kate is amazing, and yeah, that was really beautiful. There was one other scene I mourned, which was like a full length. It sounds maybe weird to some people, but for me, it was very affirming. There was a full length nude scene of me, get just coming out of a tanning bed, like looking at myself in the mirror, like every woman does at the top of. Well, I do it every day before I take a shower. I'm always looking at my cellulite and whatever's going on with me, right? And
Whatever's going on, yeah.
whatever's going on that day.
Whatever's going on, yeah.
And it wasn't sexual. It was just taking inventory of my body, you know, the hang of my boobs, my cellulite, whatever's going on. And my vagina. I mean, I'm a post-op trans woman, and I had never seen that on TV or film anywhere. And I mean, anytime they portray trans women that I've seen, and they show us nude, it's usually, you know, a cis person with a prosthetic penis, like Felicity Huffman in Transamerica, or you know, and that's fine. I was pre-op at one point in my life too. There's nothing bad or wrong with that. I've just never seen a post-op trans. I've never seen myself. And to me, this told people at the top of the movie that this was a story of a post-op trans woman. And that was important to me, but I think that maybe that wasn't as important to everyone else. And it's hard to try to convey that to people. You know, it's hard to get them to understand, like, I just want people to see me, like not in a sexual way, but just like,
Like
oh,
all me. Yeah.
trans women can look like that when they're naked too. And that's all. right? So yeah, I mean, I did mourn that a little bit, and but I think it maybe would have been jarring for people. I don't know. I think it maybe would have made people think, but
I
that's
think
just
that
me.
also now though people do know, and now they can watch the movie with that context now that you've
This is
said
true. This is true.
very well. But I think
This
like
is true.
you even bringing up that difference between like referencing sort of trans cinema and like how trans people have been represented visually or just even in casting or just even in the stories that we've seen in trans movies and TV shows. Like it's similar for queer people too, of like as like a gay woman, it's like I get the same story fed to me over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
I'm sure you get that tenfold. And it's like, what I really liked about this film and what I try to seek out in the stuff that I watch and in the stuff that I make is like, yes, okay, it's great to tell stories about sort of like the newness of like queer identity or trans identity, which is I think what gets made a lot. But I liked about this was like it was about a totally different stage of life and a totally different challenge in life. And like it was just so refreshing. And then when you see something, you're like, oh my God, this shouldn't be that refreshing. Like, like we have relationships with our parents and people age and people get sick and people get married and divorced and like all of those different milestones of a life. I just thought it was so lovely to explore that. And so I guess if you could just like speak to that experience of how you usually see yourself represented or what stories you see told about you and why this felt different. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is there's been a lot of transition stories or like you said, like, the newly trans person. And I was non-binary, I guess that's what you would call it nowadays, but we called it androgynous back in the 90s. I was non-binary, I was non-binary in the 90s in high school, rocking my feminine hair and nails and, mixed my gender clothing, whatever. And so I've lived as a woman longer than I lived, I guess, as a boy or whatever. So because I'm 42, so it's nice that I got to see that in Monica, is that there's this woman who has obviously lived this way since she was 16 and kicked out, and she's lived this trans life, and and there's a lot that comes with that when you're on your own. Everything from survival sex work to gender affirming care, surgeries, hustling, all of it, finding love, between a rock and a hard place in a world that just does not make space for you. I saw all that in Monica for the first time. I suppose I saw glimpses of it like in maybe Pose, like with Dominique Jackson's, character. She was the older trans woman in that series. So that was nice. But like it's rare that we get to see people as these fully formed, well lived in, I guess that's the best way to say it, trans people. And that's what I appreciated most about Monica, even though she was still finding herself.
But yeah, it was like we're looking at this other thing that is like so universal of like your parents get sick and they age and like, and then getting to look at that through such a unique perspective was quite lovely. There's a lot of themes obviously at play in the film, and I wonder which one or which ones resonated with you the most.
Abandonment.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that one at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
I a lot of people came up to me talking about death and mortality and caring for a loved one in their last days, and what that was like. I mean, I had people come up to me in tears or write me, saying that it reminded them of that period with their own parent, even if it wasn't something that was dealing with transness or brain surgery or dementia. And that was really beautiful. You know, I've been thinking about that a lot more as I get older. And I know at some point I'm going to have to do the caretaking. And it's scary, but it's human. And so that was really beautiful to see people reflect that back. I had an adoptee come up to me who reconnected with his birth mom late in life, and he was overwhelmed, and he was just the seemingly like normal cishet dude. And I was like, wow, it's reaching all kinds of people, which is dope. So yeah, I mean, I hope that it has reached different communities in that way. It seems like it has. I mean, I know we fought an uphill battle with like advertising and whatnot, but I am really proud of this film, and I think it will live on.
Oh, I think it feels timeless. Like it feels classic. And like you said, it can reach like such a different demographic of person because they can find their own like thread to follow through it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you just said about sort of like reaching audiences and getting audiences and marketing and all that stuff. But I just wanted to go, before we get into that, the business of film, I wanted to talk a little bit about so the relationship between Monica and her mother. Like it's so interesting because obviously Monica's mother played beautifully by Patricia Clarkson, by the way, but she doesn't recognize her daughter. And yet you both had to build still like a familiarity like between your characters, because even if her mind doesn't remember who this person is, like the body remembers, you know what I mean? And so like it did still feel like there was a tether between the two of you as characters. And that's like a compliment to you both, of course. And I just wonder, was there anything that you two did specifically to build that, or did it just sort of like happen naturally through rehearsing and shooting together?
Honestly, it was pretty instant with Patty and I. We ran into each other at an Emmy party a few years back, and we were still trying to get funding for the film. And but she, I had been attached and she had been cast, and it was pretty instant. She just came over and hugged me and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play your mom," and I was like, "Okay, cool, I can't wait." And she just had this warmth that felt maternal, and I felt lucky to be able to work with someone who's had a career like hers. And when we got to Cincinnati, we did have a couple of drinks at the hotel, that first night when she got there, and we broke the ice. And I think what's also really awesome about her is she's very primal in the way she works, and I am too. And we didn't do by choice. We didn't do a table read. We didn't rehearse any scenes. We just jumped in, and that was really raw. And I appreciated that she was down to do that, and I was open to whatever. Andrea was open to whatever, and yeah, we I don't know. It was pretty there. It was pretty much the chemistry was there from the start for us.
Well,
So
maybe it was like,
lucky.
yeah, but maybe then it was because you had connected interpersonally as people, like as actors, so that was there bubbling between you.
Maybe.
But then when you met on set, you were sort of strangers as characters, and like maybe that was like a brilliant way to do it.
Maybe, yeah. I think yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think that it's even if you don't feel it right away, you got to find something to cling to make it work. And but I didn't even have to do that with Patty. It was just there. So.
Yeah. It just like, I mean, mother-daughter stuff is always gutting. But you two were so lovely together. If you wanted audiences to walk out of the theater or walk, turn off their TV and sit with their thoughts for a second, like what's the one feeling that you want to leave people with at the end of this film?
Oh, there's a few things. I think I would love if they walked away feeling like, wow, we need to hear more trans stories. There's so much more to explore. Also, wow, that girl doesn't always have to play a sad, naked trans woman. Maybe
Yeah.
she can, maybe she could do a Marvel movie, or maybe she could be
You
in a
heard it here
comedy. I don't
first.
know.
You heard it here first, Marvel.
I don't have to be naked and crying the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they leave with like, oh, we've got some work to do in exploring this whole other group of people. And I guess beyond that, I hope that they take the message from the movie that, like, time is precious, and maybe it's time to revisit some old relationships and make amends, or make the most of whatever time you have left, especially with your loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've cried about that, I want to talk a little bit about like making an indie film and like how fucking hard it is to do. And then also like speak to me about some of the like barriers to entry in both like getting the film made, but then also now that it is out and doing so well, like then getting it sort of submitted for awards or nominated or just like seen by a bigger audience. You can do that.
Yeah.
Two-part
Oh,
question.
that's a big one. Oh, that's a doozy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with getting it made. Yeah, Andrea told me that it was harder to get this funded than his first two features. So it's usually the other way around. Like your third feature is supposed to be easier, but he said this was harder. And that sucks. I don't know what to say about that. But it did get funded, and we did get it made. The journey was long. I mean, I remember waiting and, auditioning and hoping they would pick me, and then they picked me, and then, oh, but we still need funding, and okay, we got to wait some more, and then there's a pandemic, and then, oh shit, is it gonna fall through? No, it's not. Okay, it's still happening. Cool, we made it, we shot it. Wow, we got into Venice. That's amazing. Oh my God, we're making history at Venice. Like,
now you can see me laugh, by the way.
thank you.
My camera's on.
And then, we premiered at Venice, got an 11.5-minute standing ovation, but then the press chose to write about Harry Styles spitting, not even, or somebody spitting on somebody the next day. And like, they didn't write about our standing ovation, even though it was the longest of the festival at that time. So history was being made as the first trans woman to ever lead a film in the 80-some years, the oldest film festival in the world, and they chose to write about people spitting on each other, or not really, or I
Harry
don't know.
Styles owes you a phone call.
Somebody owes me a job.
I think Harry Styles owes you an apology.
Harry, let's make a movie, please.
Harry, he's in the Marvel universe, isn't he?
Let's make a movie, and it'd be real kinky, and I could spit on you. How about that?
And Marvel, you heard
kidding.
that here first. No, it's great.
Just kidding. Not really. I would love to make a movie with him. No, so then it was like that, and then we didn't get distribution right away. So we're like, oh no, is it gonna get distribution? And then we finally get distribution, and then the film comes out, and it's like, oh, it's just this, and the goalpost keeps moving because we got rave reviews all year, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 85% from critics, and New York Times critic pick of the week, and just all these beautiful, beautiful write-ups. And then we don't have money for an awards campaign. And it's like, why? And it's like, oh, they pay attention to the lists, and what are the lists, the best of lists that come from these mainstream journalists that are not just their opinion, but they also factor in which films have money for a proper campaign. So it's not even which movie they liked the best, it's the movies that they think will actually have a shot at whatever awards. And so you look at the lists, and it's the big names, and it's we're lucky if we're on them at all, and we were, but we were way at the bottom. And then our distributor's like, well, you're not high enough on the list to warrant giving you money for a proper campaign. And then you hear what is needed for a proper campaign is like 700K to 1 million plus, and it's like, okay, well, let's do a fundraiser, and we raise 80K
Another
by
film.
ourselves.
That's like just making
Yeah.
it. That's like then you just make
Another
another
movie.
film. Like
So we
Jesus.
raise, we do
Yeah.
a fundraiser, and I auction up. Me and Patty are auctioning off dinners with we're pimping ourselves out and auctioning up dinners, with people, and we raise 80K to buy a couple ads and do some screenings and some mailers, but like it's nothing compared to these larger films, and you realize it's all bought and paid for in the end, even if the art is historic
So it's that
and
depressing.
and good. And yeah, it is depressing. And I thought I knew, and I didn't know. I thought I knew, and I didn't know how bad it was. And I talked to some colleagues, and they were like, "Oh, it was all different pre-Weinstein. He was kind of the first one that changed the game in terms of like campaigning. Allegedly he was really Oscar hungry, and he would do whatever to kind of secure the trophies. That's what I was told, and that changed everything. And so I've had to kind of reel back my
Another great thing that Harvey Weinstein
what
did.
an amazing thing, right? So I had to like reel back my expectations, and it's been tough, like I went to the even in situations where I know they're trying to include me. Like I went to Women in Film Honors this past year, and I know they wanted me there, and I was so it was heartwarming that they wanted me there. But like, I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and my best friend Devere Rogers, who's a queer Black man, said to me, "Oh, they just did this whole thing on Ava making history at Venice Film Festival, and it was really beautiful. And why didn't they do something about your film?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess there's like a very unintentional blind spot there when it comes to trans anything. I think sometimes we get lost in the diversity conversations, and it's heartbreaking. I can't say that it's not, but I don't know what the answer is if the only time we're making headlines is when we're being murdered, like Brianna Jai, the teenager that was stabbed to death in the UK by her classmates, and not making headlines when we're getting standing ovations at Venice. Where I don't know what to do with that. I don't know where the hope is in that. But I just keep telling myself, just keep showing up. One day it's going to change. And so I lean into the people who have championed this film, and I don't know. That's where I'm at with it, is to just keep showing up.
I mean, it's, I know, so hard to see when you're just in it every day, but like you are changing things. It's just like you're saying, so incremental and so slow, and like it's gonna be a little while longer.
I hope I'm not 60 when the change comes. I still want to be
I want you to be booking Marvel.
I want
actually
to play a
solution-
rom-com.
The solution is that Harry Styles should personally fund
Harry.
the campaign, your awards campaign marketing.
Harry Styles, let's get it cracking. Where are you, sweetie? Come on.
Where are you, sweetie? Is great. Yeah. So I mean, obviously we're talking about, you putting in the work. Like, what do we do to change things? Like, have you been interested in like writing, producing, directing your own? This is an attendee question, but I think it plays into this well. Yeah, like, are you interested in taking on those roles in the near future?
Yeah, I've done some producing, both in the doc space and scripted. I was a producer on Monica. I did write a pilot for TV that sold to FX and was in development for year and a half. Me and my friend Devere Rogers, who I just spoke about, that I went to Women in Film with, we sold a show that was really amazing, and it got stuck in development, and they just didn't pull the trigger. They didn't greenlight it. So that was my attempt at writing based on my own life experiences, and I may pick that back up at some point. But it was really, I think, because that pilot was so personal to me and to Devere, that that it was just like a blow to kind of like not have it go. And so I gotta take a beat, and figure out if I want to do that again. Because development is tough.
Yeah.
Especially when you come from a underserved community like Devere and I both do. Those stories are so precious, and we have to dive into our trauma and create comedy out of them and make it entertaining. And then you do all that, and then they don't make it, and you're like, what the fuck?
So much emotional labor that goes into it. But I do hope you try again, because I would love to see that show. And all the other things that you're gonna make.
Yeah, directing is something I haven't explored yet, but I'm sure I could shadow Lorraine Scafaria, who directed me in Hustlers, and she's a good friend of mine. Or Andrea, I'm sure I could, figure that out. Or maybe I could come shadow you. I don't know.
I would be fucking honored. It would be you and Harry Styles will fund the
and
project.
Harry,
You'll shadow.
Harry, come on, sweetie. Let's go, Harry.
Okay. I would love nothing more. Okay, so I'm gonna jump to audience or attendee questions, and just go through a few of these. We've sort of touched on this, like, I think, well, look, you've touched on this in one way, but I'd like to hear maybe a more like pragmatic answer. But someone asked, can you talk about what you learned about marketing and advertising over this film's process? So we already talked about, we learned that it's depressing and you need a lot of money, but like, what did you learn about like how to speak about the film, how to sell the film, like any tips sort of in that space?
I wasn't really involved in the selling conversations too much. In terms of marketing, social media was the reason we got any kind of traction. However, what I realized and what I tried to convey to the other producers and to IFC is that, I can get on the blowhorn till the cows come home on social media and talk to my following, and I can even do a live with my sister Laverne Cox about the film, and Peppermint, my other best friend, other trans women in the industry. But what ends up happening is it's just a conversation amongst our own community. And so if you're not getting like billboards or printed ads that are going to reach other demographics outside of my own little trans and queer bubble, you're not reaching everybody. And that was a hard conversation to have. And I don't know that it even made a difference. I mean, I tried, but I've yet to see a proper ad for the movie.
Like in the trades and stuff like that. Like
in the trades or on a billboard when you drive past. I mean, I see so many billboards for, different movies that came out this year. And I'm always like, oh, I should see that. And, that I pay attention to analog a lot more than I do like, mailers that go into my junk box in my email or whatever. So I would say don't sleep on on the old school advertising components. If you can, we
But
might
you're
do
right.
an
It's
ad
like
buy at the top of the year.
that's what brings new stories and new content to an older generation and an older, more like conservative demographic that might not have access to those stories in their day-to-day life. And so it's like
Mhm.
doing a little bit more of traditional marketing for less traditional, maybe, stories.
Well, yeah, and the algorithms online keep us from each other. So the straight audience is not going to see me and Laverne having a live discussion about my movie, because the majority of people that follow me and her are going to be either queer or trans or, probably not on the other side of whatever imaginary fence. So I don't know. I've been fighting for an ad buy, at the top of the year with some of the money we raised. We might get that, but yeah, that's what I learned. That's what I learned.
Harry.
Harry, Harry, let's do
Harry,
a
please.
PSA.
Okay. So that now going back into the craft of it, because we've talked about the business and we have the plan now for your campaign budget. But what is the first thing you do to research and approach a role? Someone has asked.
The first thing I do is I see where parts of myself can be in parts of them. So I try to find what's personal. Because that's what intrigues me. That's how I know I can connect. And then I think the business of figuring out the shell of the person, how they talk, how they walk, how they dress, their mannerisms, that's kind of, I don't want to say that's the easy part because it's not always easy, but, that for me comes secondary. Like, if we need a language coach or a speech coach, a dialect coach, we'll get that, we'll get the wardrobe right. We'll get the hair and makeup right. We'll get the prosthetics right if there are any. But the heart is what I need to feel first.
Yeah.
To know that I can pull it off.
What did you think was the biggest similarity between you and Monica?
Ooh. Knowing how to make $1 out of 15 cents. I could see it all. I could see it all over her face, just that inner strength that I know she's had to have, that I had to have, that all the Monicas across the land have had to have.
I
all
mean,
the transsexual women in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, her stoicism, like the characters, just like how still she could be in a moment and how present she could be, and like that was like such a beautiful quality. And so it's to know that you connected in that way. Okay,
Yeah,
this
for
will be
sure.
the final attendee question. Someone said, if you weren't an actress, what would you be doing instead?
Oh man. Oh, probably something physical because I'm pretty athletic. Like I shoot hoops about 3 times a week, and I still go and do like sprint workouts on the track on the weekends because track and field was like my first love. And I grew up watching like FloJo and Gail Devers, and I don't know. I'd probably be like a track coach at a high school or oh no, I know what I would do. I would be a sportscast announcer for like track and field or any sport really, maybe multiple sports. That's what I would do.
That would be.
Maybe I could still do that on the side. Who knows?
I think, yeah, that could. I think they would absolutely hire you. I think that could
Yeah,
be.
I think the Olympics are coming back around in the summer.
Olympics committee, you heard
Hello,
it
Tokyo.
first.
Tokyo, hey, call me.
Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to leave the
Oh no, they're in Paris. What am I saying? Tokyo happened already. I'm old and I'm losing my mind.
France,
It's in
Paula.
Paris.
But yeah, is there anything else that you want to say before I throw it back to the Women in Film team? Anything that you want to say to the people listening today?
No, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for caring.
Yeah, and everyone, if you haven't seen Monica, please rent it, buy it, stream it, consume it. It's very beautiful. Trace, you're so lovely in it, and vote for it. And
Hey, Kirsten.
yeah. And honestly, congratulations. I will be on the edge of my seat for that award show.
Thank you. It was so nice talking to you and running into you last night.
I know. At the holiday party. What a
That's
delight.
right.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. And I'll throw it back to Andrea.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ally. Thank you so much, Trace. This was such a beautiful convo. We are recording these convos to share with voters, with folks in our network. We want to get the word out about your beautiful work. And so I want to urge folks watching this, yes, vote, but also spread the word. If you know people in your life who have not seen this film, who may not be connected in community like Trace and Ally have mentioned, get the film on their radar. Find a way to use your voice to spread the word, because we can have a huge impact when we collaborate together and really try to get the word out. You know people in this industry who should be supporting this film. So let's all collaborate and get it on their radar, and let's all be cheering Trace on at the Independent Spirit Awards in February. Also, Trace, what's the best way for people to stream the film right now?
So it's free on AMC Plus, or you can just rent it on Amazon or Apple TV. I believe it might go to a streamer like in February, but as of right now, I think you can just Google Monica movie watch and those options should pop up.
I love that, Trace. That's exactly how I Google things. So I'm glad. Give us the tips. We're so grateful for your time. And thank you for your work and for sharing with us today. Let's all keep in touch, celebrate this work, this award season. Thanks everyone. Thanks WIF. Take care.
Everyone.
Bye.